Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
and we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs. Welcome into the Arrowhead Addict podcast post-game show. It is a victory party. Drink them if you got them. The Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl rematch 28-18 over the San Francisco 49ers, and it wasn't that close. Patrick Allen and Sterling Holmes with you here, as always, to break down another victory led by an absolutely rabid Chiefs defense. Sterling, what'd you think of that one?
Chiefs defense is absolutely elite. The only undefeated team left in the NFL, not just the AFC, the NFL. Down Pacheco, down Rice, down Hollywood, down Juju, down Charles Omenihu. What looked like for the majority of the game, down Jalen Watson. Yeah. Didn't matter. Chiefs win by double digits. Now, I know the 49ers had injuries, and they will try and use that as an excuse. Don't let them. The Chiefs are 6-0. To me, the most important aspect of this win, and we'll dive down to all the aspects in just a moment, their ability to close games out late. That had traditionally been an issue for Andy Reid, letting teams hang around, let them come back late. Oh my gosh, they punt late in the game. The Chiefs salted this game away and then still found a way to put a little extra pressure on San Fran with that little end around, that little play with McCole Hardman for the touchdown. I'm loving the way this Chiefs team has adjusted. They've changed, and they can now close games out.
Yeah, man, look, everybody's dealing with injuries. It's the NFL. Some teams have a little bit better luck than others. The 49ers are super banged up. The Chiefs are super banged up. They're playing with a team from 4 years ago out there, and they still go out there and they find a way to win because they have a superior quarterback, superior head coach, and coaching staff. And that's what makes the difference in a game like this. The Chiefs were on the road playing the defending NFC champions, and they beat the tar out of them. I mean, this is a different Chiefs team than we've become accustomed to, and it's because they'll do whatever they need to do to win. And heading into this on Thursday, I said, the Chiefs, they might want to throw the ball a little bit early in this one because the 49ers are going to be expecting them to try to run. And the 49ers, to their credit, they did. They were stacking the box. They were really tough up the middle early in the game, and the Chiefs just kept going back to it, and they wore them down. Kansas City ran in this game 39 times for 184 yards. It's as you put it, Sterling, they can close out games. They can, who was it on Twitter? I think it might have been one of our co-hosts here, Josh Briscoe, who I saw. They grind you to dust. Like, that's part of their strategy now on offense. It might not be pretty, but it sure is effective. And I've got a big question for you. Is the defense this year better than the defense from last year?
Great question. I think initial reaction is yes, because they're better stopping the run. I mean, again, they are just they bottle you up. They really do. They're not quite as good, in my opinion, as far as getting after the quarterback. Although, let's be real now, Turk's been great. Chris Jones has been phenomenal. And George Karlaftis, this was his best game. So maybe he's starting to come on a little bit more. That's nice to see. But I think the linebacker play has really been improved, even though Drew Tranquill's taken a step back, which is kind of interesting here. So I think Nick Bolton's been absolutely nails. Ever since the first 2 weeks of the season, he's been great. And then Leo Chenal, in this more expanded role, has been outstanding. The cornerbacks, Christian Roland Wallace is out here getting interceptions. Fun fact, more interceptions than Trent McDuffie. Just funny how the numbers actually work career-wise. Safety play, they got about 4 safeties that you really, really choose. That you trust. McDuffie has, I think, taken a step forward, and Jalen Watson, we'll see on the injury front. It looked like the first one was cramped. Second one looked like he got stepped on. But Jalen Watson's been outstanding. He's been a legit CB2 bordering CB1. L'Jarius Sneed this year has been one of the worst corners in football. I feel bad. That sucks for him, sucks for Tennessee. But if you're KC, looks like you made the right decision. The secondary factory that is Kansas City has been on full display. And so part of me does want to think, yeah, maybe this defense is better than last year.
I'm with you. I think they're better. And I think you nailed it right off the top. They can stop the run. When you can keep teams from running the football on first down, and you've got them so far, but the Chiefs were already good last year at defending the pass. They were very good at it. Incredible. But teams could run on them. They could get some big plays occasionally. And sure, they've got some weaknesses. They struggle a little bit covering tight ends. They'll give up the occasional big play. They did in this game. But they make it so much harder on the defenses when they can't run the ball. I think a big part of that's Big Mike Pennell. I think they're using big Mike Pennell. I got to check his snap counts, but he's just an absolute monster in there. And as you pointed out, some guys are continuing to progress. More time in the system, young players. Spags is in his bag. I got a couple super chats I want to get to real quick. Slothy, with his tradition of donating the score of the game, donates 28-18. Yep, 6 and freaking 0, baby. Wins 6, doubts 0. Now what, media? What now? He's mad at the media. And then Raymond Chandler, another good friend of ours, says national media not giving Spags the credit he deserves for last season's Super Bowl win and this season's 6-0. It's Spags, man. Spags, I'm telling you, I've been saying it for weeks now. He's the best he's ever been right now.
You know what? And great call, Raymond. But I also want to go a little bit to your point here. When you were talking about, is this Chiefs defense better than last year? I don't know if it is by players, right? But by schematics, by the scheme, by what Spags is doing with what he has, I think the answer is yes. This might be the best Spags has coached in his entire NFL career, and he's already a Hall of Fame DC, right? So that might be a little bit of like, are they better off without Willie? Are they better off without L'Jarius? Well, no, talent-wise, they're probably not. But as far as production and what they're doing right now, schematically, it's hard to say they aren't better this year than they are last year. Again, it's a little bit of a nuance, but I am just so impressed with Spagnuolo consistently getting in the dome of the opposing quarterback. Brock Purdy's supposed to be a quick processor, gets through his reads very effectively. He did not in this one. I mean, he was confused. He was befuddled. He was perplexed. It was incredible to watch. 3 interceptions, 1 in the red zone. Yeah, hat tip to Spags for sure.
Yeah, I guess you could say he was pretty bad in this one. And if you look at the box score, it's not going to tell the whole story because the 49ers got a garbage drive there at the end of the game. I think Purdy had he finished 17 of 31 for 212 yards before that last drive. And there's no way for me to pull this data, but as I recollect,
I mean, there is totally a way for you to pull the data.
But I've got to not live on a podcast. I got to sit down and subtract.
I'll do it for you.
I think he had 11. I think before that last drive, he had like 11 completions. He was under 200 yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions.
Here you go. Take away 6 yards. Take away 9 yards.
Hold on, I got to get.
Take away 15 yards. That's 30 yards right there. Add 3 yards because they went negative. Okay, so that's 27. Take away 7 yards. That's 34 yards. Take away 6 yards. That's 40 yards. Take away 11 yards. That's 51 yards. You can take away 51 yards passing right there. There's quick math for you.
So 161. So he had 161, and then he probably had about 11 completions going into that drive. So he didn't do jack. He did almost absolutely nothing in the first half. The Chiefs were all over him. And the 49ers, this is one of the worst games I've ever seen a Kyle Shanahan coach team play. It wasn't just that the Chiefs locked them down. They were also their own worst enemies in this game. Bad penalties, dropped passes. They did not look like a team that was playing at home. They looked like a team that was playing on the road in Arrowhead. I mean, it was shocking to see how badly they played.
Do 49ers fans think McCole Hardman is the greatest wide receiver of all time? Like, do they think McCole Hardman is Tyreek Hill? Like, he's Jerry Rice to 49ers fans. Like, wow, I can't believe the Chiefs have a faster Jerry Rice. Because McCole Hardman, by the way, what a game. receiving early on, that third down catch, obviously the touchdown, him getting involved more as a receiver, some of his blocks. And oh, by the way, the phenomenal punt return. I don't know what it is. Can we just tell McCole Hardman that every game he plays against the opposing teams, the 49ers, because he has his best game against the Niners?
Yeah, and they're using him the right way. He's got some limitations, but he is not a bad football player. He is a useful NFL player, and the Chiefs know how to use him, and they used him to great effect in this one. A couple more chats to get to. Jay Ward, my guy, who's been a Ring of Honor member here at the Arrowhead Addict podcast for 29 months, says Mahomes truck stick. What did you think of that Mahomes run? He had two. He had two really incredible runs in this game. One with the sick juke step back to get down the sideline, and then the truck stick in the end zone on, I believe it was Mustafa, who, by the way, that guy was laying wood all day, the 49ers safety. Yeah. And then Mahomes goes out there and is like, let me show you how it's done. Humiliates the guy.
So the first one, the toe touch, the down the line, the tightrope, that was incredible. I understand the 49ers player, by the way. I will say, just full transparency, to not be a homer here, I would be a little upset if a Niners player did that or another quarterback did that against the Chiefs, because the Niners player thought he was going out of bounds, and you don't want to get a late hit or a roughing the quarterback in that situation. I understand that. But Mahomes gave him a nice juke. The amount of pump fakes he uses, every single high school, college, middle school, elementary school basketball coach is thrilled. The fake a pass, make a pass. Like, you have to stick down like he's Reggie Miller shooting at three, or else he's going to go by you. Again, great run. Love the tightrope. Love the jukes he has. Has to be so frustrating to go up against. And then the actual touchdown. I'm so happy he led with his left shoulder. Like, the truck stick was awesome. I was thrilled. I was pumped. I stood up. I was getting after it. Wall wanted to run through it. But I'm so glad it was his left shoulder. If it was his right, I would have had maybe a little different reaction. But the left one, putting him on his ass, was awesome to watch.
Yeah, I don't want to see Mahomes having contact with anything other than the Lombardi Trophy when he's out there on the football field. But he had 5 carries in this game for 39 yards. Again, the run's critical on a scoring drive. We'll get to the offense in just a minute. Shout out to Wiley Poston for the super chat. Chiefs 6-0 in part because of unsung heroes. That's a good point. Hunt off the couch to RB1. Hardman off the team to home run threat. Everyone on D, including first and second year players, are playing lights out. Hicks pick 6-0. That's a great comment. And I think that is, you are seeing, people are going to look at this game right this week, and they're going to be like, well, Patrick Mahomes, he only had 154 yards passing and 2 interceptions. These guys, they don't care. They don't care about the stats. They're playing a different game, literally are playing a different game than everybody else in the NFL right now. They have done something that no team in the NFL that exists right now, no group of people, with the exception of some of the personnel that might still be with the Patriots, has done before. And they're playing a different game, and they don't care about stats. They don't care about fantasy. They don't care about individual accolades. They care about dubs and rings, and that's it. And they're going to do whatever. If they got to throw 50 times to Noah Gray, great. If they got to run Kareem Hunt and Carson Steele all game to beat you, that's what they're going to do. They've got some warts. They've got some things they need to do. I do think they need to add to this offense to reach their ultimate goal. But the fact that they're 6-0, Sterling, they've played the hardest part of their schedule. The hardest part of their schedule is over. They've got the Bills, they've got the Texans. Those are big games coming up. And, the Bucks, everybody else on their schedule, they should beat. No problem. No problem.
Well,
comprised
I know,
as they are right now. I'm not saying they're going undefeated. I'm just saying,
I get they should be favored in every single game going forward now. And I'm with you. I'm glad Nick picked up on this as well. You're talking about it, and I think Tom Brady, I'm not a huge fan of his quite yet in a lot of his announcing so far. I think he's young in this regard of what he's doing. I think he'll grow into it. I don't like that he gives cliches when I do think he is a wealth of knowledge. Like, he's Tom Brady. Be Tom Brady. I don't need you to be a generic broadcaster, but we got a little bit. And he was talking about the evolution of Patrick Mahomes. And I thought that was fascinating. And I'm glad Nick picked up on it here when he talked about he's no longer trying to go for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. That's great. All that matters is wins. It doesn't matter how you get the win. It's that you get the win. And Brady, again, He's obviously the perfect example of this with the amount of rings he has and some of the numbers and, he just checks down and all. Doesn't matter. The job of a quarterback, the job of your team is to win. You don't get extra style points for throwing for more yards. Brock Purdy threw for more yards. Did it matter? No, it doesn't matter. They lost. Chiefs won by double digits. And so I'm glad Brady is brought that sort of nugget, hopefully, to a lot of fans who are ripping on Mahomes, opposing fans saying, look at the interceptions, without looking at, okay, one was a tip pass that, again, back-to-back weeks, by the way, a defensive lineman has caught a interception against Mahomes, and one was Worthy just fell down. There has to be nuance here, and I'm glad Brady brought nuance.
Yeah, and look, Mahomes hasn't played great this year at times, but this offense right now is so banged up and injured that the tackle play has been shaky. You've lost they literally don't have any wide receivers. All due respect to Xavier Worthy, he's a rookie. He's fallen down on routes. Like, he's not there yet, right? I think he's going to be really good, but he's not there yet. McCole Hardman he's like a wide receiver 4 in the NFL, right? He's not a guy you can rely on in that way. Travis Kelce is getting swallowed. It's either a combination of he's slowing down a little bit, plus he's getting double, triple teamed all the time. And then you've got Justin Watson, also a wide receiver 4, and Sky Moore, he's not an NFL wide receiver. So that's who Mahomes had to throw to in this game, and they blew them out on the road. Like, you've got to get perspective and stop like some of these people who are like, well, the defense is carrying Mahomes. Mahomes don't care, man. He doesn't care at all. Brady went through so many eras during his run. He won Super Bowls because of his defense. He won Super Bowls because of his offense. The thing about Brady was that he always made sure they won, and he was always clutch. And if he had the offense to throw for 50 touchdowns, he threw 50 touchdowns. If he didn't, he managed the game so they could win. And Patrick Mahomes, just like the Chiefs, has entered a different stratosphere. He's not Josh. These people are so far below him. It's like he's standing on the moon, looking down, trying to read Josh Allen's number on his jersey. That's how far above every other quarterback he is in the NFL. He doesn't need to do the stats. He's trying to achieve something that none of them are even going to sniff. They're not going to sniff it. So just sit back, enjoy the ride. I miss, greatest show on turf, deep balls and all that stuff. I guarantee you at another point in Patrick Mahomes' career, that will happen again with a healthy offense and so on and so forth. But right now, man, this is a lethal team. They're deadly in execution.
Yeah, it's really funny that we're talking about how lethal they are when the offense, especially at wide receiver, is just so abysmal. I want to bring up some running game numbers here because I think it's worth mentioning. You'll look at the end of the box score. You'll look for the season, and you'll be shocked at the yards per carry of said Chiefs running backs. Isaiah Pacheco was at 4 yards a carry. Kareem Hunt was at 4.2 heading into this game. He ended up this game at 3.5. And Carson Steele was at 3.5. He ended up the game at 2.8. Don't we all agree that Kareem Hunt ran very well? Don't we agree that at times Carson Steele picked up the yards that he needed? There's a difference between yards per carry and efficiency. The Chiefs don't really get stopped behind the line of scrimmage on runs. Like, How often did you see Jordan Mason get stuffed behind the line of scrimmage? Multiple times. That puts you behind the sticks, and at that point, you're kind of screwed. He ran for 4.1 yards a carry. Mason did. Nobody's going to sit here and say Jordan Mason had a better game than Kareem Hunt. So when you use yards per carry, I think you're using a very simplistic way of viewing the Chiefs' offense. Use the rushing efficiency method, which I was talking to some analytical folks. The Chiefs actually rank 3rd in rushing efficiency in the NFL. Don't look at yards per carry because they're perpetually getting 3 to 4. They're getting the requisite amount that they need on the ground. It's 3rd and 2. They're getting it. 3rd and 4. They're getting it. It's the effectiveness the Chiefs have on the ground that is debilitating. It's the reason why teams are so frustrated playing Kansas City. It was why they could not get off the field, and it allowed McCole on that final touchdown. They were stacking the box. They thought the Chiefs were running. Well, they did, but with a different guy.
Yeah, and you pointed it out. The 49ers had 1 tackle for a loss in this game. 1. The Chiefs had 5. And also keep in mind that towards the end of this game, fourth quarter, the Chiefs went super conservative. They were up by 2 scores. So now they know that Kareem Hunt's running the ball, and they're out there to stop it. But the Chiefs kept getting first downs. They kept moving the chains. Absolutely incredible. And I think the efficiency is a great way to put it. I mean, anytime that, and what the other thing that the running does that people probably don't talk about enough is it limits the other team. We've seen teams try to do this to the Chiefs when the Chiefs had the explosive offense. Hey, let's run the ball. Let's control the time of possession. Let's keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. Well, guess what? In this game, the Chiefs had the ball 35 minutes. The 49ers had it for 24 minutes and 56 seconds. And a lot of that was about almost 4 minutes of that was that last drive of the game. So the Chiefs crushed the 49ers at time of possession. They're running the ball. They're eating the clock. Shout out to Raymond Chandler for the super chat. He says Super Bowl super chat to give Noah Gray his kudos. Juju goes down. He's next man up. I know some people were confused when the Chiefs re-signed Noah Gray. This is it. He's trusted. He's not going to go out there and like blow you away with his athleticism as a pass catcher, but he's not going to turn into Travis Kelce. But he's a fantastic blocker for them. And because he's such a good blocker, because that's mainly what he does, when they want to throw him the ball, he's wide open. He's wide open. They can scheme him around Travis Kelce, and he always catches it. He always comes through. And I'm not saying he's a bad athlete. He's a very athletic tight end, but he's fantastic, and that's why the Chiefs brought him back. Shout out to Green for the super chat. Are the Chiefs winning in spite of Pat? If his name wasn't Mahomes, he'd be getting a lot more criticism. You want to take this one, Sterling?
Yeah, that's interesting. First, first 2 things. One, shout out to Raymond. Noah Gray was phenomenal, and I'm an idiot. I told everyone you should bet on the over for Noah Gray. Travis Kelce is probably going to get taken away by Fred Warner or Lenore, which for the majority of the game, he actually was. And I did not actually throw money on my actual prediction, so that makes me the dumbass. No. And by the way, Raymond, you asked earlier, this is Old Forester Rye, not an expensive bourbon. I really like Old Forester Rye. Relatively hard to find in the Midwest unless you're in Louisville. Cheap, but I go to Louisville and pick up a liter of it. Not the 750, but the liter. Pretty fun.
It's good. It's really good.
Very solid. Great on the rocks, which is what I do. Shout out Kills as well. Says, Sterling, you were born to break down game, brother. Grateful you were on our side. Thank you. One of the nicest messages I've ever received. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. Yeah. And then as far as Green says, are the Chiefs winning in spite of Pat? If his name wasn't Mahomes, he'd be getting a lot more criticism. I think it's a good point, and maybe it's one we need to talk about more. It's interesting because we can all agree. If you look at the box score, he's looked pretty damn bad. 8 interceptions, 6 passing touchdowns. That's not ideal. But then you look at when the team needs a drive, he steps up. Whether it's his legs, whether it's his arm, it doesn't matter. He finds a way when the game is on the line. It's a really interesting dichotomy where the box score is atrocious. I'm not saying that he's been great. He's not been. This has been his worst year in the NFL by far. He missed a wide open Xavier Worthy. We can talk about Xavier Worthy falling down and Pat Mahomes throwing the interception. We also have to realize Patrick Mahomes missed a 65, 70-yard touchdown pass to Xavier. I'm on alert here. Like, he's the guy. Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the world. I want him being the QB for my team. But yeah, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know if he doesn't trust his offensive line, which has been talked about. I don't know if he doesn't trust any of his wide receivers, which again has been talked about. But he's not looked like himself. But end of the day, they need a drive. He's going to come up with that drive.
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening here at once, okay? Like, he's made some bad throws that have led to interceptions earlier in the season. But you've got to understand, first of all, he doesn't have any wide receivers. He doesn't have any wide receivers. He went through all of training camp expecting to be throwing to Hollywood Brown, and now he's out there throwing he's got Juju Smith-Schuster. He adjusts to that. Now Juju Smith-Schuster's out. Like, Kelce's getting double teamed. He's got nobody to go to. So you've got to comment. He doesn't have a starting running back. This team, do you think this team would be 6-0 right now if Alex Smith was the quarterback? No chance. Zero chance. We don't give enough credit to the things that Patrick Mahomes does. You got to look beyond the box score, right? This game's a great example. He had a pass get tipped. That's probably partially on him. He might have stared it down a little bit, right? And he missed Worthy on a deep shot. And then the other one wasn't his fault. Worthy fell down. Those are 3 plays. Okay, he hits the deep shot. He's got over 200 yards. He's got a touchdown. Nobody's worried at all, right? It was 1 play. He missed 1 play. He's got a rookie wide receiver. He's not gotten a lot of opportunities to throw him deep balls. So he's still got to adjust. That is not Tyreek. Like they got to get on the same page. He needs to know exactly where to put the ball, all that stuff. But we don't give enough credit to what defenses do because they're so terrified of Patrick Mahomes. Like the way that they're playing the Chiefs, if Alex Smith was Alex Smith was a good quarterback, but if he was still the quarterback of the Chiefs, the way that the Chiefs would not be able to move the ball an inch. They would not be able to move the ball an inch. They would have all 11 guys in the box. They wouldn't be scared of the receivers at all. They would just blitz every single play, and the Chiefs wouldn't be able to move the ball an inch. Because he's Patrick Mahomes, they're able to run the ball 39 times for 184 yards. Because he's Patrick Mahomes, okay, they've got 4 rushing touchdowns in this game. Would we all feel better about this game if he had 156 yards and 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions? And we could be like, oh, his quarterback rating would be better. Who cares? Who cares? He's the GOAT. He's the best player on the field every time he steps on the field. He doesn't always play his best, but at the end of the day, who made the best plays in this game that you can remember? It was Patrick Mahomes on a run. He can do that. He can do so many things so well. They're not winning in spite of him. They're winning because of him. And it's not about statistics.
Well, it allows you, this is a longer conversation for the offseason, but it allows you to spend more money and higher draft capital on the defense. You can not have great wide receivers and still win because you have an elevator at quarterback. It allows you to have a more complete team. It allows you to have a better offensive line because you can pay guys like Kareem Hunt. You can pay guys like Jawan Taylor, which we can get to in a moment. And you can also pay guys like Chris Jones, right? Even though he's on his second contract, that means you're not paying top dollar for guys like Devontae Adams, for Tyreek Hill, and the like. Makes you a more complete team. That's an offseason conversation. Some update right now on Jalen Watson per Nate Taylor. He says, quote, some unfortunate news on Jalen Watson, who was on crutches with his left ankle and foot in a cast, end quote.
Not good, man. Not good. I mean, look, even with Mahomes and Reed, at a certain point, you're just going to lose the war of attrition here. And one of the reasons why the Chiefs have been able to go on the run that they've been able to go on is because they've been reasonably healthy. They've dealt with injuries, but they've been reasonably healthy. They have a great training staff, and they've had some luck. If their defense starts to fall apart because of injury, they're screwed. You just can't overcome everything. This is a big trade deadline for Brett Veach. He's got a couple more weeks, but he has to take a hard look, and he has a lot to do, right? I mean, he's sitting back and he's looking at the tackle position. Does he want to shore that up? He definitely has to get some more playmakers at the receiver position. And now you're losing a cornerback. I think they probably feel okay with their ability to, at least for a time, if he's not out for the season, replace Watson. But over the long haul, it's going to catch up to you where you're just going to be out. You're just not going to have enough ammo to compete with the best teams in the NFL if you're this banged up. Yeah,
and it's wild that Christian Roland Wallace looked pretty damn good, right? I mean, even before the interception, I said, look at that pass defense earlier. Look at him blanketed over a guy. Joshua Williams has been a little interesting. I thought he was going to be CB2 coming out of training camp. He was not. He's hardly playing at all. And Najee Johnson has jumped him. Obviously, Christian Roland Wallace has jumped him. We'll see with Jalen Watson as far as long-term, if he's out, if this is just precautionary. Yes, you're right, Patrick, not good. But if there's any position that I trust with unknowns or a random dude to find a way to step up, it's the cornerback room. I mean, this is what Dave Merritt and Spags, this is what they do. So sucks for Jalen, but the defense, even the secondary without him, they stepped up. A couple super chats to get to. One from KCDC. Hey, KCDC, I appreciate you for the wedding gift. That was very kind. He sent me a wedding gift. It was so nice of him. Dude's the man.
Best listeners in the business, man.
He is the man. Says Pat needs consistency is my guess. Could you imagine if our wide receiver room was healthy? No doubt this is our dynasty. We have slack at 6-0.
Yeah, the injuries are a huge issue. and it's definitely hampered the offense. The Chiefs are basically having to go into every game and start all over this season, which is, I mean, it's been crazy. First you lose Hollywood Brown right before the season starts, and then you're like, okay, well, we still got Rashee Rice. We'll bring Xavier Worthy along. We're going to be fine. Then you lose Rashee Rice, and then you're like, oh man, okay, well, we get, and then you lose Pacheco, and now you've lost Juju Smith-Schuster, and you've got Kareem Hunt. You've got guys coming in off the street, and you're still 6-0, and you're finding a way to put up 28 points against the 49ers in their own stadium. So, I mean, Mahomes, thank God for him. Thank God for him with all of these injuries, because you see, look at the 49ers today without some of their best players. Look at Brock Purdy. There's a difference between the way that Patrick Mahomes played today and Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was terrible. Patrick Mahomes had a couple of unfortunate passes, and he missed Xavier Worthy on a deep shot, but he wasn't trying to do too much. He was trying to win the game. Brock Purdy was trying to play hero ball, and all he did was put his team in a worse spot. Wiley Pawson comes in with the super chat as well. Says, take any other team's number one RB, number two RB, number one wide receiver, number two wide receiver, and see if they even make the playoffs. Meanwhile, because of Pat and the D, Kansas City is 6-0. If KC three-peats, it's because of Pat and Spags and Andy, I would argue. But yeah, I mean, 100%. Like,
you look at it, by the way. That was the Niners.
Yeah, right.
You saw who it was. It was the Niners. They were without Christian McCaffrey. They were without Debo. They were without Ayuk. And they were without Juwan Jennings, which would be the Chiefs' Juju Smith-Schuster, if you will. I know the numbers this year, but let's be real now. He's that version for that team. Maybe you could take Xavier Worthy instead of Juju. Doesn't matter. They're without 4 offensive weapons. Chiefs are without 4 offensive weapons. You saw it. And that's what makes this Chiefs team so impressive. Teams around the NFL make excuses. They make excuses. You're right. They're like, well, he was injured. They would have won if he was healthy. The Chiefs don't make excuses. They win with injuries, in spite of injuries. That's what makes the 6-0 so impressive. It's incredible.
Yeah, the only one they can't afford to lose is 15. They could find a way.
Or Chris Jones, I think. I think Chris Jones is the other guy you can't lose.
He makes the whole defense work. He's the quarterback of the defense. He's this, and that's why they re-sign him, because he enables Spags to do all of the things that Spags wants to do, all the exotic blitzes, all of those things, because that guy's getting double teamed. George Karlaftis is great. He's improving. He would not be as effective without Chris Jones there. It's just a fact. It's really great though to see the maturation of George Karlaftis, which I think is going to continue each year. Like he hasn't like blown up, but he's taken incremental steps forward every single year. And you mentioned that the Chiefs aren't getting a lot of sacks this year, but they're getting pressures like gangbusters. They're always getting quarterback hits. They're always getting pressures on the quarterback. And that's really what matters in the long run. You love to see those sacks, but in this game, the Chiefs hit Purdy 8 times in this game.
This was Karlaftis' best game of the season. It wasn't close. George was great early on, was great, continued on, and even at the end of the game. I mean, he was making impact plays time after time. We haven't seen that from him this year. I mean, I've been disappointed as a huge George Karlaftis guy. Wanted them to draft him originally. I've been banging the Greek freak drum. I was disappointed. And then this game was his coming out. And again, it was against a mostly good offensive line. Some of it was even against Trent Williams, right? That was nice to see, which, by the way, Trent, come on, guy. Like, show some class. Trent, I know you're trying to punk some guys and you're mad, you're losing, you can't beat the Chiefs. You could have joined them. And you joined the wrong teams. Don't get mad, Trent. Let's talk about it.
I will say
okay.
Cook bopped him in the head, too. On that play. He's lucky he didn't get thrown out.
Yeah, bold move by Cook, by the way, because Trent Williams is likes to fight. There's a reason why most dudes in the NFL don't try Trent like in those scuffles.
Yeah, I would have, if I was that mad, if something happened that made me want to hit Trent Williams in the head, I would be gone before he looked up. Like I would be 40 yards away if I was Cook in that situation. Credit to him for standing in there, and credit to him for getting away with it. Another super chat from Dave. Big Red and Spags equals 6-0. Coaching greater than personnel. It is for a time. I think it eventually will catch up to them. Let's talk a little bit about this guy, Kareem Hunt, man. Like 22 carries, 78 yards, 2 touchdowns with a long of 13. I was watching him and I was just thinking about how skilled of a running back he is. And then I couldn't believe that he wasn't even in camp with anybody. Like, I know he was injured last year and he didn't look great with the Browns. And I don't know if anybody brought him in for workouts and maybe they did and he didn't look good, but I didn't hear about it. His combination of skills, his vision, his shiftiness, and his balance are really, really good. Like, they're still elite tier. He might not be as fast as he was when he was 22 years old, but it's incredible the way he sees the field. And another person pointed out to me on Twitter is also his strength. Like, he'll be dead to rights. He'll do one of those little jump cuts. He'll get 3 yards, and then you'll be like, okay, he's going to get tackled. That was a great little movie made. And then, like, you look up and, like, he, like, grinds out, like, another 1.5 yards, 2 yards with sheer power. He's 29. I mean, that's incredible for an NFL back at this age.
Yeah, I'll admit I was wrong. I didn't think he had any juice left. It wasn't just last year, because I know about the injury, right? That was the knock, was the injury. I thought he would be a red zone guy only. You get to the 1, you get to the 2, maybe it's 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, you put him in. That's going to be his entire role. Basically like Zeke this year for the Cowboys. He has way more juice. But it's not just, again, the yards per carry, which don't look good. You have to watch the games. You have to watch the film. You have to see what the Chiefs need. They're getting everything they need from him and then some. That's what it comes down to. Is he explosive? No. Is he going to have a 20-plus yard run this season? Honestly, probably not. Doesn't matter. He doesn't go backwards. Every single run is 3 or 4 yards. It's incredible the consistency he has. His legs keep churning. He does not quit. The physicality, you're right, but it's the vision. It's, okay, we know the offensive line's built for run block or for pass blocking. Let me try and find a way to slither for 3 or 4, though. And I will also point out, Creed, Trey, and Joe, this has been about their best season ever in run blocking, which is nice to see. The tackles have had some issues, and I will give coaching a little bit of a nod as well. How often have we yelled at Matt Nagy or Andy Reid saying, why do you keep running outside when you don't have explosive running backs? They can't get there quick enough. What are you doing? So what have the Chiefs done? They've ran a lot more up the middle in between the 3 that actually get a push. So I'll give a little bit of a nod to Andy and Nagy as well, saying we're not going to have as many explosive plays. That's fine. We understand, but we will consistently get 3 or 4 yards. Keep in front of the sticks. That's, I think, been the most impressive aspect of this, is the Chiefs are finally understanding the personnel.
Yeah, they really are. We've been waiting to see this from those big guys in the middle because they're so good and they're such nasty run blockers. And you have to step back because, you look at the box going, well, Mahomes only had 154 yards. The Chiefs in this game, their leading receiver was Noah Gray with 4 catches for 66 yards. Xavier Worthy had 3 for 19. Okay. They weren't, it wasn't working great through the air because they don't really have any receivers. So you might feel like, oh, well, the offense was really struggling. The offense is struggling. No, like they scored 28 points in this game. There was no Harrison Butker in this game except for extra points. Listen to the drives the Chiefs had in this one. Their touchdown drives. 7 plays for 70 yards, 7 plays for 30 yards, 13 plays for 79 yards, and 12 plays for 80 yards on the road against the San Francisco 49ers with no receivers. Like their running game is excellent, and it's so good right now that they don't need to be brilliant in the passing game. They just need to move the chains. They need to, right now they're using the passing game almost as an extension of the run game. Get a little bit here, get a little bit here, and staying ahead of the sticks, as you were pointing out, Sterling. They can't afford to be like, I was getting a little frustrated early in the game because I felt like they were being a little predictable. because it was like for every first down was Kareem Hunt up the middle, Kareem Hunt up the middle. And the 49ers were ready for it. And I was like, come on, guys, like be a little bit more imaginative. But like, that's why I'm sitting here on a podcast and Andy Reid is a multi-time Super Bowl winning coach, because Andy Reid understands that the way that we're set up on offense right now, we can't afford to be in a 2nd and 12 or a 2nd and 13 because, because we threw a screen pass or we still got 10 yards to go. We're 2nd and 10. I just want these 2 or 3 yards because then I can run a screen, chuck it down to Noah Gray for 4 yards or something, and then we'll move the sticks. It's brilliant, and it was actually really, really effective today. And it would have been more effective if not for the 2 interceptions, because the first one was the second one they were going to score. They were down there, 6 plays, 34 yards, and then Mahomes gets the tip pass. They were on the San Francisco 32 when that happened. So this offense is maybe not, it's not pretty or fun to watch because it's a lot of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Man, I'll take 4 touchdowns any day.
I'll say 3.3 or 3.5 yards because that 3 carries, that's a first down. I mean, it's impressive. Huge shout out to the offensive line because I don't know if it's Andy Heck. I don't know if it's just the tackles. I'm not necessarily worried about Creed, Joe, or Trey ever. But early in the game, Jawan and Wanye were getting bullied. I mean, the first couple drives, I thought this is gonna suck. The first quarter, I was like, my goodness, they're getting their ass kicked. And then from the second quarter on, they turned it on. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was a speech. I don't know if it was helping. I don't know if I didn't see a lot of chips. I still saw Wanye Morris go one-on-one a lot in that game. I was impressed. That first quarter, I mean, he did get bullied. It looked like Kingsley. Again, I think Kingsley will be good, but we'll see him grow. Wanye really stepped into his own in this game. I was impressed. They eventually took Bosa out of the game, even though he was a major factor early. You saw Mahomes giving the offensive line a hug at the very end of the game when it was out of reach. I think they were right before they went to go kneel the football. He understood that they stepped up big against a good defense. That offensive line that was getting bullied came up, and they were able to control the line of scrimmage and then kick the ass of the Niners.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and it's really all. But this is Brett Veach's ball now. Like the coaching staff, Mahomes, they're getting everything they can out of the roster that they have. It's not Brett Veach's fault that the injuries have piled up like they have, but that's the situation that they're in. And the Kansas City Chiefs are such a well-run organization. They're not going to make excuses. They're going to figure it out. And it's going to be a really fascinating couple of weeks here as we approach the deadline, which is in early November, to see if Brett Veach makes a move. I think he will. I think he might make multiple moves, and what moves he makes. It's going to be really fascinating. I want to give a shout out because we haven't talked about special teams. You got the return by Hardman, which was really consequential, right? And we got to talk about, because I don't know if he'll come up in earning their Arrowheads. Matt Araiza, man. What a signing. Yeah. 3 punts, which, by the way, the Chiefs only punted 3 times in this game. 3 punts for 179 yards. He had a 59.7 average, and his long was a 67-yard punt. He did have a touchback in this game.
That was the one, right? The 67. That thing was boomed. Yeah. I mean, at that point, you're just sitting there going, you still flip the field even with the touchback. Like, I wasn't even mad. I was impressed.
Yeah. He's unbelievable. And he's going to, I think he's already had an impact, but I think before this is all over, we're going to look back at the Matt Araiza coming aboard and being like, this guy having a weapon like that when things don't go your way, or you get pinned back and you're on their 2-yard line, you got to run the ball 3 times up the gut and punt, and you're able to flip field position like that. He's going to matter big time in the way that, and Tommy Townsend was great, but nobody's got a leg like this guy Araiza. He's incredible. He's going to matter in a way that I think Harrison Butker has mattered for this team at some point. He's going to come up real clutch for them. He's been fantastic this year.
Yeah. No, great call. Really good call. Do we do Arrowheads now? Is that what we're going to do?
I think right. We've reached the natural time to give out some hardware part of the show.
I got a couple. McCole Hardman, first and foremost. Guys go down. Someone had to step up. He stepped up. impressive. Like, seriously, I mean, how often have we needed to count on McCole Hardman in important situations throughout his career in Kansas City? For the lack of consistent production of McCole, look throughout the Chiefs' history. When they need McCole to step up, he steps up. There's something to that, man. Like, I get he's never going to be a 1,000-yard receiver. That's fine. He has such a important role on this team. 3rd and 4, and you want to run corn dog? Hell, you go run some corn dog. You need a 3rd and 4 early in the game. You need someone to pick it up. Go to McCole because Juju, Hollywood, Rasheed are out, and they're basically bracketing the bleep out of Travis Kelce. I am just so impressed with McCole Hardman in big-time games. He's a big-time player in big-time games. Second Arrowhead is the offensive line. I talked about it earlier. Don't need to get into it again. But the tackles who were getting their ass kicked earlier on in the game, they stepped up. The adjustment, right? That was impressive. Really, really like to see that. And I almost want to say Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. Like, I know the offense wasn't great overall, but they put up 28 points. I know they had 3 interceptions on defense.
They scored 4 touchdowns.
They scored 4 touchdowns. The red zone, right? Am I wrong here? The red zone was actually better. The Chiefs were 30th in red zone percentage heading into this game.
And I've been saying that, right? I've been saying they're getting the ball in the red zone, but they're just not there. And you were wagging your finger at me. You're like, you can't say what if. And I said, but if they do, they're going to score 28 points.
But they even had Xavier Worthy open on a deep ball. The play calling was better. They didn't overthink it this time. They had a fun play with Carson and Mahomes on the field at the same time. That was fun. And it actually worked. They got 4 yards. They went from the 5 to the 1. But yeah, I think Matt Nagy and Andy Reid, they deserve some credit. They didn't overthink the majority of this game. They were effective offensively. They didn't make a whole bunch of dumb play calls where we're scratching. Besides the fake punt, just go for it. Stop that. Just run the ball up the middle. Run it twice if you want. Like what are you doing here, y'all? Come on.
Yeah.
But overall, Nagy and Andy Reid, I thought were really good in this one.
Yeah, they were fantastic. Look, I got to start off with Noah Gray. I mean, when you lead the team in receiving yards as the second tight end, Noah Gray had some huge plays for them in this one. He's definitely got to get an Arrowhead. We got to give some hardware out here on defense. It's got to be George Karlaftis. I feel like he was the most impactful defender in this game, at least up front. And then you got to give one to McDuffie too, right? I mean, you're not going to hear his name called a lot because they stay away from him, and he's going to take whoever out of the game. He was terrific. And I've got a kind of a funny one here. I'm going to give one to
me. Oh my gosh, you're a sweetheart. Thank you, Patrick.
Yes.
You're so nice.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to give one to Xavier Worthy. Now, Xavier Worthy did not have a good game. Okay. He fell down on a route. He had 3 catches for 19 yards. And usually what we do in this segment is we reward somebody who we thought played really well. But here's why I'm going to give it to Xavier Worthy. He was targeted 8 times in this game. He was wide open for a deep shot. And I'm giving it to Xavier Worthy because I think Mahomes is trying to get that kid going. He has to, right? There's nobody left. There's no time to wait for Xavier Worthy to develop. It's trial by fire. And he's going out there and he's busting his ass and he's trying to make an impact. He got behind the defense. He probably would have had a big play if he didn't fall down there. So this is almost like one of those like preemptive awards for a guy that is you just want to keep encouraging him to keep going. Xavier Worthy, you're our only hope right now, man. So I'm giving you an Arrowhead for earning 8 targets from Patrick Mahomes. And credit to Patrick Mahomes. I just think this is big brain stuff for Mahomes. I really do. He, even going back to preseason, he was targeting Worthy a lot. He understands what he's got in Xavier Worthy, and he knows that the faster he can accelerate his development, the better it's going to be for the Kansas City Chiefs. So they've got to get that connection going. And if they don't, well, I hope Brett Veach has got some creative trades. And it's going to be interesting to see if Brett Veach gets active this week. Normally, it's good to kind of wait till right up to the deadline. You trade for guys, you have to pay them less and all that stuff. But teams are being really aggressive right now. The Bills went out and got Amari Cooper. He made an impact for them. No, I'm not worried about Amari Cooper going to the Bills. If I wasn't worried about him when they had Stephon Diggs, I'm not worried about him with Amari Cooper, right? But I'll tell you what, like Deontay Johnson, he's still out there. The Panthers are atrocious. They're going nowhere fast. Go get him. Go get him, Brett, if you can. I never expected them to get Devontae Adams. No, I'm not worried about the Jets getting Devontae Adams. The Jets are ass.
Wait. Stop for 1 second.
Yeah.
To put into perspective how bad the Panthers are, they got a 40 spot put on them by Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. James Daniels had he completed like 2 passes and he got hurt.
It was that's insane. I mean, 40 spot by Marcus Mariota.
Yeah.
Damn.
And you know what happens this time of year too, is that like some of these teams that have good players and could win if some things kind of went right for them, but they didn't. This is when people start making business decisions, right? Like the Panthers, when Dalton first came in, he injected them with life. He was like a somewhat competent quarterback. They look like, oh, maybe they're not going to be ass. The Browns, we know that they have a talented roster. They were in the playoffs last year. Deshaun Watson, they might actually improve that he got injured today with his Achilles, but they're 1-6, right? The Panthers, there's nobody on these teams, unless it's somebody that's absolutely desperate to get a contract next year, that wants to put their career in jeopardy for Andy Dalton and the Panthers, right? Like, you're just like, no, I'm sorry, man. Like, I just work here, right? Like there's nothing on the line for me here. And so what's going to happen is some of these bad teams are going to keep being bad. They're going to get worse because, guys, it's just going to start to fall apart. People hate losing. Culture gets bad. Business decisions, all that. So now is when these teams are going to – nobody wanted to really wave the white flag too much a couple of weeks ago. Now, if you're the Panthers, the best thing you could do for your organization is try to get the number 1 pick so you could screw it up again. Right? Yeah. Like, that's it. It's try to trade, so it's going to be a fascinating couple of weeks here, and it'll be interesting to see when Brett Veach decides to pull the trigger on a move. It takes 2 to tango. He can't. I saw some people who were like, well, this is all Veach's fault. And I'm like, look, man, like Veach, we were jacked for this offense coming into the season, Yeah. He's got to get
seriously. He brought in Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice was blossoming into a legitimate, like if you look around the NFL, like a wide receiver 2, bordering wide receiver 1. Xavier Worthy was a first-round wide receiver. Like he back-to-back Super Bowl champion GM. No, no, I will never tolerate Brett Veach slander. Like, I just can't do it. Like, do I disagree with some of the moves he makes? Like the Jawan Taylor contract? Yeah. I'm not going to. Fine. Do I think I could do better overall? No, I'm drinking bourbon straight and I'm still a realist. I'm like, he's done a phenomenal job.
Yeah. Yeah. He's fantastic. These moves are going to be, I think, some of the most important, if not the most important moves that he's made in his career as the Chiefs GM so far, from like a legacy perspective, because he's done so many good things that he got key players that helped them. Even the trade for Kadarius Toney, like, it helped them win a Super Bowl, right? You never have to say you're sorry. Maybe a bad contract for Frank Clark. He was a great leader, helped him win a Super Bowl. You never have to say you're sorry. This is, I think, the moment where he can have actually the biggest impact ever that he's had on the Chiefs. Like, he could pull something off here. It doesn't have to be a crazy trade. It just has to be the right trade. If it's a Deontay Johnson, if it's getting, Slayton from the Giants, I don't know, like somebody that comes in and makes an impact and helps them. If he somehow manages to convince the Dolphins to trade him back to Tyreek Hill, I know that's not going to happen, but it's hilarious to think about. It's a really great opportunity.
Well, monetarily, it's like it would be so incredibly difficult to actually happen. Like, monetarily speaking, not just the would they do it. It's, you have to think of the confines of the cap space. Like, these are things that Brett Veach thinks about that I think a lot of fans maybe don't. And I don't think another conversation for another day.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be Deontay Johnson. It doesn't have to be one of these guys. it could be a Jonathan Mingo. Like, they just drafted Xavier Leggett, right? Same position in Carolina. That seems more like a legitimate Brett Veach move, a guy with multiple years left under his rookie deal. That seems more real than I would love Deontay Johnson, because if you've ever listened to Adam Best and myself, dog, we are the Deontay Johnson fan club. We've been that guy for 2 years. We're like, Deontay Johnson, and we've been the ones with egg on our face. But, like, doesn't that seem more the Brett Veach move? The guys like Jonathan Mingo, who are under a rookie contract, who can fit in, slide in under the salary cap. You have multiple years of control, like the Kadarius Toney move, basically, but a little souped up. That's kind of what I think Brett Veach will do.
Yeah, and that's what Nate Taylor said from The Athletic and KCSN. He said this week that the Chiefs are never in on Cooper because he's 30 years old, and the Chiefs just – I think Brett Veach is looking at these trades, at least right now. That might change after the injury to Juju. But, like, he's looking at these trades as, if I'm going to give up – like, so the Bills gave up, I think, a third-round pick and, like, a sixth for Amari Cooper. That's an aggressive move for a half-year rental. Now, they could try to re-sign him, but he is 30 years old. And then they got to give him the contract and all that. Brett Veach may be looking at this and be like, look, I'll give up a third-round pick for somebody. Like, he gave up a high pick for Kadarius Toney. He gave up a really high pick for Frank Clark. But he had, like, when you get control of these guys, then it kind of makes the medicine go down a little bit easier, because it's like, all right, like, I'm not just giving up a high draft pick, a third-round pick for a guy that's going to play for us for 10 games. I'm giving up, and I'm going to try to pick a guy that I believe our coaching staff can develop, that can be a contributor for us, basically treating it like a draft pick. There is one guy that I think fits the mold, and that's Elijah Moore, in terms of a guy that would be real. See, he'll trade so you can get Elijah Moore for nothing. A third-round pick for Amari Cooper, you're thinking about extra years in control. A guy like Elijah Moore, who he fits the Veach mold of a high draft pick that has failed, but he's been with two bad organizations. Like, the Jets stink, and then he goes to Cleveland, and they don't have a quarterback. So how are you going to develop a guy like that needs a quarterback to find him? He kind of could slide into that Hollywood Brown role. He's a smaller speed guy. It's not my favorite, but I'm just saying of what might happen. Don't be surprised if he trades for Elijah Moore or a guy like that nobody's excited about.
I'm telling you right now, on October 20th, I hate it. If they get Elijah Moore, I will talk myself into saying I think it was a great move. I can't wait.
True,
but
yeah.
But, like, final year of his rookie contract, I get it. It would be a 7th-round swap. Like, it wouldn't cost anything. Right. But by the time he learns the Andy Reid system, all that stuff, is he even an upgrade over McColl? No. Let's be real. Come on. If that's the case, give me more 12 and 13 personnel. Just Raymond. Never pick up another wide receiver named Moore. Great.
Yeah. Stay away from it.
Like, at least give me someone who's either under contract, who has a higher potential, who can elevate. We don't need another wide receiver 4 or 5. You need someone who's an elevator, or at least you can go out and be different than the Justin Watsons, the McColls, the Skies, the Justin Ross is I mean, again, I want to see Nico Remigio. I want to see Justin Ross. I get it now at this point. But if they can't make this roster, they know more than us. There's a reason why they're rocking 13 and at one point 14 personnel.
Yeah. I mean, what are they even doing on the practice squad? Like, if at this point you can't bring up Justin Ross or Remigio, like, why are they still on the practice squad? Get some guys that you think that could actually contribute to the roster. But you should be these are the teams you should be looking at: New England, Cleveland, Tennessee. I know Jacksonville won today and they looked okay. They might not be willing to wave the white flag yet, but, like, you know, the Panthers, the Giants, the Saints, like these teams. The Saints probably think they could turn it around still because Derek Carr might come back. But, like, these are the teams that they're waving the white flag. It's over. It's over for the Patriots. You know, it's over for the Browns. The other guy that you might think about that it's only if the Chiefs could get him for absolutely nothing is DeAndre
Sterling
Hopkins.
Holmes. Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they could get you for a pack of Virginia Slims. But like,
no, Marlboro Southern Cuts and a fifth of
all right,
bourbon,
all right.
and I'm
You've
all
got
in.
self-respect.
I will
You've
take
got
many
self-respect.
hits.
But DeAndre Hopkins is interesting, and I know he's been banged up. But if he was healthy enough, there's no reason for him to still be on the Titans after the trade deadline if they can get anything for him. Anything. They're not going anywhere. They're not winning anything. They're not developing Will Levis with him. Get him off the books. Get a draft pick for him. That could be somebody, a veteran guy that the Chiefs could all of a sudden, old DeAndre Hopkins could all of a sudden be looking real spry, not injured all of a sudden if he gets traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. That could be a potential target for them. It's going to be a fascinating trade deadline. Should we let these folks get on to Sunday Night Football, Sterling?
You should let me get on to Sunday Night Football. No.
I still got to make dinner, man. It's a busy day.
I made a pot roast, so I was a big pot roast guy.
Smart move.
We call that forward thinking.
Yeah, I'm a big pot roast guy, especially on Sundays with football. But I did one like 2 weeks ago, so it's goulash tonight. It'll be quick. Little goulash, little Sunday Night Football. Guys, we appreciate you so much for joining us all day today from the pregame show. Adam Best, Matt Connor, Price Carter at halftime, me and Sterling here, producer Richard. Shout out to all of our members for their support. You saw them in the chat donating money to us when they already donate money to be members to help us keep this podcast up and running and pay people like Sterling to host the show. So do it for Sterling in the arms of an angel. If you want to support the Arrowhead Addict podcast, check out the link in the description. I was in the private Discord during the game, chatting it up, chopping it up with everybody, talking about what was going on. It was a lot of fun. We've got a fantasy football league going that I am losing spectacularly in.
Oh, dude, I'm going 2-0 this week, baby.
Oh, you good? You're gonna win both?
Oh, dude, come on. I was on a heater. I was 5-1. I lost 6 straight games. It's 2 games a week, so that's why everyone's confused. Yeah. Okay, I'm waxing folks this week. Come on, I'm back, baby.
It's not good for me. My whole team's injured. I started Daniel Jones last week. It's a bad scene. All right, everybody, you can become part of it. You could beat me in fantasy football. Where did you get that? Can I get one of those?
You gotta. Well. Take us out, baby.
All right, everybody.
I got a little bored.
Thank you for joining the Arrowhead Addict podcast. We will be back next week with our regular slate of shows. If you're not subscribed on YouTube, hit that like button and make sure you turn on notifications. Until next week, we will see you. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.